Today I've got a good one for you. I ran this as a coaching session and I talked about this in the brokerage. And it is about, well, here, let me just read to you the rule that I created from this. It's called Barton's Rule. Beat Zillow by doing these two things. So Barton's Rule I created into 2 steps. So follow along because it all stems from one thing. It stems from a podcast that I listened to where Tim Ferriss interviewed Rich Barton, the co-founder of Zillow. And it was about a week and a half ago. So very new podcast, amazing. If you haven't listened to it, I highly recommend it. And it was really this whole section that I made, this whole thing that I wrote out was only from about, I think it was about like 10 minutes. And I expanded it on it based on being in real estate for a long time. And I put my 2 cents, more than 2 cents on this. But it came from one section, one little paragraph. And I'm going to read this to you. And I want you to pay attention because then I'm going to read to you Barton's Rule that I created, which you're going to use to beat anybody, including Zillow, Redfin, anybody in your market if you stick to this consistently. This episode is brought to you by abrillianttribe.com. Check us out. Here we go. I'm going to read this to you. He says, Rich Barton, look, if you have an over-dependency on any supply of customers, you're strategically exposed for obvious reasons. If you have an over-dependency on any supplier, you're strategically exposed. I mean, that makes sense, right? And so Business Strategy 101 says diversify your sources of customers and your sources of supply so that nobody gets too much leverage over you. He was talking specifically about Google. He was scared that Google would go downstream and start taking a piece of Zillow because Google can do that, right? They own the internet. And so here, right here, is Rich Barton's, what I call Rich Barton's Rule. Barton's Rule. Beat Zillow by doing these 2 things. And it's his own words. I literally just took his own words, simplified it, and I'm giving it to you. Number 1, or A, you could call it. If one company, Google, for example, controls your flow of new customers, that company can eventually and will reach downstream into your business, take the margins you depend on, and make you a subcontractor. That's part A of this rule. And if you think about it, this is exactly what Zillow has done to our industry, to real estate agents, right? And it's no different. There will be other companies that are doing this. In fact, other companies have tried to do this and have not done so well in doing it, but they're trying. And you're watching it happen right now. That's A. Now here's B. The only durable way out is to become the first place customers go to on their own, okay? On their own. And Zillow has done that very well. And make yourself indispensable inside the transaction so no one can route around you. Right? So they've done that very well as well. Now, this is where you win because if you take this rule and you now create your own rule from this and saying, okay, got it, I'm going to use Barton's Rule and I'm going to now, number 1, become the default brand because that's what you want to do, right? Zillow spent, I don't know, some high millions, I don't know, maybe like 500 million plus just on ads because they grew on Google for so long. And I mean, you type in homes for sale in whatever city, guess who pops up still? Zillow, Realtor.com, Homes.com, Toll Brothers. They're all competing on there. This is how they get there. But Zillow did one thing differently. Zillow made their name synonymous with home search. You can do the same thing locally. You just have to start showing up more. And where are people? Here, this is part of your plan. This is part number 1. This is number 1, part of, whatever. You get it. become the default brand by showing up where people are. Where is your audience right now? I mean, that whole new stat by NAR came out where saying boomers now became the largest purchasers of homes. That's crazy, right? And where are boomers typically? Facebook. And the number one most visited website in the world is still Google. Number two is YouTube, then Facebook, and then Instagram. Where is the consumer? That's where they are. So how are you showing up there consistently? And what about email, right? And when you're becoming the default brand, guess what you need? You need your own home search. You can't rely on somebody else's. What does your IDX home search look like? And does it have your name? Does it have your brand? So people locally, the ones that are in your database, the ones that you're blasting out daily, the ones that you're doing that hop method with, right, that I came up with years ago, your brand needs to meet them at home, online, and in person consistently. But you can't do that like Zillow does all across. Only do that in your niche area. Where is that? And you have to start. Actually, as you start making money, you've got to start reinvesting it in Google Ads. What does that look like? And what about retargeting? See, this is how you start showing up and you become that default brand. But you can't do it in a big area. It has to be in your niche area. And it's okay if you only do this to your top 100. There's nothing wrong with that. In fact, that's probably extremely powerful. Imagine always showing up to your top 100, those people that refer business to you all the time, right? Your A clients. Imagine showing up on social. Imagine showing up online because you're retargeting them. Imagine sending them out a newsletter. Imagine gifting them something. Imagine putting a magazine in their door. They also get postcards, handwritten notes, right? And you're showing up with intention through social media, messaging them, calling them, leaving them voicemails, making them feel special, and then inviting them to one-on-one coffee or dinners or these big events you have. That's what I'm talking about. That's how you beat Zillow. That's how you use their rule, Barton's rule that I made up, right? That's how you use them, their ideas on them. This is how you win. That's one. And the other one is you've got to own the workflow, not only inside, not only during the transaction, but also after the transaction. What happens after? Everyone drops the ball after. Even Zillow drops the ball after. They're relying on their brand to still show up enough in mind space in people's heads saying, oh yeah, I need to go search for property. Oh, I need a Zestimate. They're relying on that. But that's all they're doing. This is where you win. This is where you win even more. Now, not only do you own this process during the transaction, you've got a team, transaction coordinator, your lender, title, escrow, attorney, right? You've got that team. Make sure that they function at the same level you do, right? A players bring A players. Who are they? And then once you've got that down, what happens after the transaction? This is the key. You need a system where everybody, your new now homeowners who just became past clients, current clients, whatever you want to call them, where they live, where they can see their equity, where they can see the directory for the vendors that you have, those home service providers, because I can guarantee one thing, they're homeowners. And what happens to the home when they're living in the home? Things break. And when things break, who do they call? Well, they better call you, right? That's how you remain valuable. And you have to continually show up in a valuable way so they can think, Tristan, they could think, this person, that person is real estate. Anything real estate. Anything. This is how you beat Zillow. This is how you beat everyone else. Redfin and Rocket and whoever else comes after you. This is how you beat them. I think the biggest misconception is that you have to be everywhere, all around the big city. Like, no, you don't. You only have to show up for the people you're trying to attract. Be very small. It can be wider too. But the point is, that's how you do it. If you need the document, I've got it for you. I'll send it over to you. Just message me. It was actually an article I made on Substack about a week and a half ago. I wanted to go over it with you. Let me see. It's only a few pages, and I also have the transcript for that section that I was inspired to create this from the podcast, and I have a link to that podcast. Anyway, message me if you need this. Hope you have an awesome day.